I'm feeling a tremendous sense of joy and of gratitude. And as I had mentioned here, that people didn't necessarily have the opportunity to hear me say it, this sense of expansiveness today. So I really want to honor that. And I'm very appreciative to have the opportunity to be sitting in this space today with Heather Squicciarini. Heather, thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Oh, thank you so much. I was honored to get the invitation to be here today. It's truly an
Absolutely. Yeah,
honor.
thank you so much. I've had an opportunity to read a little bit about you, and of course, while I find that it is definitely very interesting to do that, what I really find, and ultimately why I reach out to people and have these conversations, is I really enjoy, and I find that many people who listen to this also enjoy hearing from people about their life journey and their work in the world in their own words, so to speak. So I wanted to start out the conversation, if I can, by asking you, if I could, what your inner life journey and the work that you are sharing with the world, what those things mean to you at a deeper level.
Well, at a deeper level, I'm in my 50s and it's it's just so hard for me to believe that my whole life I lived my life like I would say like in a box and like no peripheral vision and thinking it's only me when I have an issue or not really realizing that the whole world we are all connected, and I was so afraid. I had walls up around my heart that I didn't want to share anything because I was so afraid of being hurt by others. I didn't trust people. And when you and I realized that being vulnerable and sharing with others, you realize that we are all alike and we all do struggle with the same things. And what we're here to have a human experience of to share, really to love one another rather than all these things we get caught up in, whether it be anxiety, stress, fear, all of those feelings that I didn't want to feel were stuffed down inside of me, and I wasn't even aware that they were there until I started my self-healing journey with the Sound Healers Academy.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I would love to hear anything that you're comfortable to share. Is I don't want to assume that there was an aha moment or just a singular moment in time where you received an invitation to begin this journey, or however you might express that. Anything that you might share, just as far as any formative turning points that you found yourself going through.
Well, the first distinct point was when I was a mom of four raising kids, and I put my heart and soul into raising them. And I just went for a routine mammogram, and I'm like, oh, I always never thought anything, and I get a phone call. They wanted me to come back in, so it turns out they hand me an envelope, and they're like, you have breast cancer, and I was like,
Oh
what?
wow.
So I was like in denial. So it turned out, thankfully, it was a grade 0, but I winded up having a lumpectomy. But this like threw my whole world upside down. And that is when I picked up my first book by Louise Hay, and it talked about healing your life. And I realized that is when I started like a little crack inside of my heart opened, and I started to peek through and see a little light. And I realized that in there, it was like, things show up in your energetic body and then they land within us. And I realized I was over mothering. I had unforgiveness in my heart. So I started writing letters. And it didn't matter. The people didn't need to know who I was forgiving. It was all an internal job. So I started writing. I probably wrote about 10 letters of people that I had to forgive. And I wrote it all down and then I burnt them. And that was when my journey began. I would say that was probably 2017. And then I was slowly on a journey on my healing journey that way. And it wasn't until 2022 when I went into the Sound Healers Academy, and they made us, it was an intense program, and they made us do these journal prompts with these groups. And I realized when I was doing we had to do a little impromptu sound bath, like with the groups in front of people. And I literally was frozen and petrified. And my mentor would be like, Heather, why can't you do it? What's wrong with you? Why can't? And I, at that moment, I was like, because I'm not enough. I don't feel enough. I can't do it. And so then it made me dig deep and deep. And I'm at the time I started to work with a mentor to help me. And when I started not feeling enough was from childhood. I was one of four children raised in a family business. And the boys were favored because they would run the business one day. And I realized it was always feeling not enough, started back when I was a little girl. But looking back now, there's a book I'm reading about I am light or light, and I am so thankful that I chose a family like that because it made me become more independent and made me realize that I don't need others' approval to know that I'm worthy or I am enough. But I had to go through all that and struggle and understand how other people feel. But it was, the lumpectomy was like the universe banging me over the head. And then it started, then I'm like, started on my sea legs trying to say, like, wait a minute here. And then it's a slow process every day. But that's where it began.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you so much, and I really do honor that, and I'm so appreciative that you are comfortable to speak about that. I wanted to also. It was interesting when you were speaking about the first time that that when you were actually studying, studying with the group, and we're going to actually give a sound bath. If I remember correctly, that's what you were speaking of. That there was this sense of I don't know if the word resistance possibly. And there again, this is not a judgment or an opinion or a belief the way that I'm hearing this, but just sensing into what you're speaking of. And I'm wondering if that word does land, has there been anything for you that has seeing that even resistance on this journey can be sacred, so to speak, that there can
Absolutely.
be that it can be healing?
Absolutely. Because actually, what resistance is an excellent word because it
Huh.
was resistance is it was showing me where I need more healing from,
Yeah.
because I was like, because with not only was it a sound bath, we had to speak and do a meditation. I was like, oh, what?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so I felt like my throat was blocked because I could never speak up when I was younger. Like I never voiced my opinion because I was the youngest. No one wanted to hear from me. So I thought, well, that's what this mind thought. I don't know if it was really true, but that's what I was thinking. So anything that would make me like my whole life, I would not try anything new if I didn't know I could do it perfect because I was afraid of what others would think of me. So resistance is a fantastic word. And I was also reading a book about the story of the woman who created Spanx and how her father every day would ask the kids, how did you fail today? And I'm like, how amazing of a question is that to ask
Yeah.
your
Oh,
family?
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I was petrified. I remember going for my driver's license and my dad saying, not one person in this family failed. You better pass.
Wow.
Needless to say, I found out, I think my brothers failed 2 or 3 times, but but how gracious is that to say to people, how did you fail today? It opens you up, it makes you more aware. And I'm releasing resistance. I've definitely been like, even when I go get a massage, my neck and everything is like so tight. It's like, release.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And actually it's so interesting. I find it so interesting because that word just came through as I was listening to you. There wasn't any rational thought on my part or any thinking about trying to figure out a way to find the right word for that. And it was coming through, and I just wanted to trust that. So I'm so glad that resonated because I had no way to know. And I'm wondering along those lines, has there been any other ways in which that you found that resistance to be sacred and healing, just in other aspects of your life on this journey, or even since this journey has begun, so to speak?
how it's been sacred, the resistance. Yeah, okay. With my day-to-day job, I was working in my regular job. I would travel and commute an hour each way to go there, because my family needed benefits. And I was resistant to like going, like I was staying stuck there for 6 years, not coming out of my comfort zone, um, to expand myself with a background. So I winded up landing a job closer to home, which I was so grateful for. But again, there was a little voice inside of me because there was a position that was opening up, which I knew I could do it, but it's not like I was qualified, so to speak. And
Yeah.
I had resistance going back and forth. It's like, all right, I'm going to say one time and that's it. I'm going to offer and I mentioned to my boss, if you're willing to train me, I would love to, you know, apply for that position. That's all I said was one time. And
Yeah.
then I was offered the position like a month later. And boy, they're big shoes to fill, but I'm resisting, and I can feel the resistance still to this day. And I'm like,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
as my mentor always tells me, she's like, just keep walking through the fire, just keep walking through. So
Yeah.
at this moment, that's what I'm doing.
Absolutely, and I do want to, out of full the desire to, in terms of being fully transparent, I can openly admit to you there's things I've even been resistant about earlier today, even since I've awakened this morning, that I've just found that is so. At least I can't necessarily say that for everyone, but I know for me it's certainly been a very major part of this journey is working with that resistance. And yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Like even like I've been doing sound baths for 2 years. Even before going to a sound bath, I'm like, there's a resistance. Heather, you're not good enough. You're not all those old voices that I receive, yeah, resistance all the time with even like if called me recently for a Reiki session, I'm like, oh no, I don't know. All I do is as soon as I do my ask for guidance and light, and then as soon as I get together, like even this interview today, I'm like, oh man, I had like a little in my solar plexus, my gut was like a
Yeah.
little nervous, and I'm like, why am I so nervous?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And there's been this sense, and I'm wondering if you have felt this at all, that in some ways, being fully human and embracing these things and welcoming them, does it almost ever feel to you like there's really no way to fail? When you think about the traditional, the way that the word failure or fail is looked at in the English language. That have you found that there's a space where there's no way to fail?
Absolutely. And that's something that I have to keep reminding myself because it's like, all it really is. I mean, you say lessons or blessings, but everything is a lesson. If they go down that path or that path, it, it's not a wrong path. It's just a different kind of lesson or a different kind of blessing for you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And
And
that
then
brings so much more peace to, you know what I mean? Then you're not so stressed or filled with anxiety.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I'm wondering too, just in terms of since you've been on this journey, just your relationship to the way that you think, or what you notice about the thoughts that you have as a human being. If there's anything there, again, I don't know if there's anything there in terms of speaking about it, but it would be very interesting to hear anything that you have discovered just in terms of being aware of what and how you are thinking on a moment to moment basis.
Yes, I realized that most of my life I was telling myself stories, stories of like uh, just simple, like as I mentioned, you're not enough, or why would they pick you, or you're not pretty enough, you're not thin enough, all these kinds of stories that are made up. Or like when you, even as a kid, you hear, money doesn't grow on trees, you got to work hard for your money. And all those things, all they really are stories. and I try to repattern. So like if something, which like you said is human, if you have somebody says something and it triggers a wound in me or a memory, and then I react, I I'm just trying to be more compassionate with myself, reminding myself I am human and that's an emotion, and just feel it and let it go. I don't think I ever realized I was supposed to feel my feelings. I felt like I had to be strong,
Yeah.
and I would, anything I didn't like how it felt, I would just stuff it down and be like, "You're fine, you're fine."
Yeah, that, and I'm also curious, just as as you see yourself on this journey, has there been any surprises in any way in which you see yourself differently, so to speak, or is there? I'm wondering if there's just been anything that's been, a revelation to you beyond what you've spoken of already.
Well, the revelation to me, definitely about, I'm definitely still a work in progress.
Yeah.
Um, but I definitely struggled with not feeling enough, but I know now that when I remind myself and fill myself up, I've definitely, I would say, I would more on the point of 60% getting full of feeling and of having more confidence. Like people, when they talk to me now, they're like, shy. You're not shy. As a little girl, I was so shy.
Hmm.
I wouldn't even, I remember when I was dating my husband, my mother-in-law was like, why, she doesn't even talk because I don't use my voice. But now I talk to everybody, and I used to not want to meet new people, and now I always like, I love talking to people. So
Yeah. Yeah, is there any sense at all of this is who you've always been, so to speak? That this is, your consciousness and your being and your spirit, that can ultimately be who you are, even if on the outside, it does not always feel that way, or it didn't feel that way?
exactly, like, how other people, like, I would say something and someone was like, "I don't see you that way at all." So it's just like the protectiveness as a little girl that I put on that I didn't realize. So I have been doing a lot of inner child work as well to help me. And actually, I've been saying to myself to to connect with my heart and my inner child to help me realize that those were just not true, those thoughts, that really I am filled with love, light, and all those things that each one of us are filled with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really have respect and reverence for that, without a doubt. And also, as far as just as your journey has progressed, if there's anything that you can speak to as far as what it's been like to relate to other people who knew you before you began this particular journey, and what that's been like for you in terms of sharing that with people and speaking with people about that.
Yes, people have seen it. It's very, I'm very different than what I used to be. And at first, my children were like, "You've changed." And when people tell you you've changed, I don't know how to take that. And so I actually asked my older daughter, I'm like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, well, you're still this sweet, kind mom, but you're definitely different. So I used to like party, I would drink, I would smoke, not smoke, eat gummies, whatever it was, just to get
Yeah,
me to be like, I didn't feel like, my husband is very fun and loud and outgoing, and I never felt enough around people. So I would party with him to do that so that I would feel enough. Not that I wasn't. No one ever made me feel, it was in my head. So I thought that made me feel like easier and put my guard down. But now
yeah.
I have so much more fun and I don't need anything to, I'm high on life. I'm high on knowing who I am, not afraid to share what I'm. So, I mean, nobody unfriended me on Instagram, but they definitely think I'm different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
now.
I have so much respect for that. As someone who, yeah, I've lived, quite a bit of my life being different, so to speak, and it's, a lot. Obviously, a lot of it was not by design. This is just, ultimately kind of how things went, so to speak. It's interesting. I have one of my teachers recently was talking. It's interesting when you're speaking about that experience of being around people socially, and being high on life, and I love that he was actually talking about how, being more conscious and being more in our bodies and being more connected with our, that consciousness, and with, with everyone and everything else, that he referred to that as, being present with other people is the best party going. And so I loved when he said that, because and I hadn't thought about that for a while. And as soon as you shared that, that came back up and kind of bubbled up to the surface. So I don't know, didn't know if that resonates or not, or yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. Like looking back now, it's like, wow, I'm definitely different in regards to that, because I would just be like, have one drink and I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm loosened up. I can talk. I have I have no problem, and I don't have anything against if somebody wants to have a drink. It's just personally for me, I I don't feel I need to. So
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I love it. I love it. And then speaking, about your experiences, actually working with people, and sharing the healing modalities with people, and sharing that with the world. Would love to hear anything you might speak to as far as what that has been like, in the beginning of sharing these various modalities with people, and how you have evolved as a result of actually offering this to the world, so to speak.
yes. Well, actually, I first started it because in order to graduate, I had to hold sound baths, and they made you lay out a whole business program. So once I started, I will never forget this one. I had a sound bath, and a young girl reached out to my daughter, who she went to school with, and she was deaf, and she wanted to know if she would benefit through a sound bath. So I said she's welcome to come for free, but no, she decided to come and pay for it. And because the sound works through our nervous system. So that day I did a sound bath, and I did a guided meditation about inner child healing. So afterwards, my one daughter knew a little sign language and was speaking with her. And she had mentioned that all memories of her childhood came flooding through her. And
Wow.
she could not hear what I was saying. So to me, that right there, and that was like one of my first sound baths I ever did. I'm like, oh my goodness. And a lot of people would get like deep, like tingly sensations. I had one woman tell me that means there's a deeper healing going on. And then I had one woman suffer with not being able to sleep for years, and then she slept after the sound bath. So it's like one thing after the other after the other. So it just encourages me, and I get so excited to even talk about this, like even to be on this podcast, just to share, like when I light up when people want to hear about my spiritual work. And I also became a Reiki master. So before each sound bath, as soon as they sign up, I start sending them Reiki and ask for our guides to work together and for them to receive exactly what they need to receive on that day. And everyone's always truly blessed by it. So,
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And as far as, do you find that as a result of sharing these healing modalities, is there, do you find in some ways that you're sharing a part of your consciousness, so to speak, that, from the standpoint of just, your presence with people, and when you're present with them, that, if they are feeling energy from you, so to speak, and, in as much as you've gotten feedback on that.
yes, I always get the feedback that I bring calmness and peace to people. So they definitely feel that presence from me. So, and that's part of being a sound bath, which makes me so grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say to you, as you have shared these things, as I had mentioned at the beginning of this, this sense of expansiveness that is really what is coming through, not only at the beginning of this conversation, but as you have continued to share about your journey and what you've learned along the way. And so I really do. I want to deeply honor you for that, because it certainly, from my perspective, comes through in your energy.
I love that because, I don't know if you're into human design at all, but
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm a manifesting generator. So I
Wow.
always take a course in this and a course in that. So at one time I had taken Akashic record healing course, and I did all the certifications, and I was sharing with my teacher that I kept having dreams of a cat. And I'm like, I
Hmm.
have no idea why am I this cat visiting me in my dreams. Turns out my husband had a trailer and there was a cat trying to get out and it winded up dying, which I was
Hmm.
so sad about. But the teacher said, she's like, Heather, you're like an open highway. And so the cat was trying to get your attention. She's like, don't worry about it. It's safe, passed over perfectly. But you're like, and that's what, when you said expansive, made me think of it. And when I was getting my Reiki certification, I was also told I see expansiveness. So I love that.
Wow. I'm just so glad that that resonated, because I never, and I can tell you that sometimes, I've been hesitant to share or speak about what's coming through. And it's interesting. I find that as human beings, it's not about, I guess there is some sense of this about not wanting to be wrong, so to speak. In other words, if I share with someone something that I'm feeling from them, that they don't necessarily, that they're not feeling that, or they're not sensing that that's what's emanating from them, so to speak. But I have found just to trust that process, and it's not from a place of knowing at all, and just to allow that. So yeah, yeah.
And I can understand that humanness of being wrong. Absolutely. I think I teeter on that a little too. I'm getting a little past there.
Yeah. And as far as just, anything else that you might speak to in terms of, anything else that you have learned about what being human is, if there's anything beyond what you've spoken of, as I get a sense that, this is a process it feels like it's a process of discovery to a certain degree.
Absolutely. I'm constantly discovering, and it's I love how things happen for me. Like I'll just be like, oh, like I was traveling to visit my sons in LA and I picked up, I'm like, I think I'm gonna bring this book. And it was a book about feeling worthy. And it was exactly what I needed. It was talking about we can be confident, we can love ourselves, we can be all these different things, but if you don't feel worthy, nothing's going to change. And then I picked up another book. I'm like, somebody's trying to get something through to me. And the other book was like, it was about this woman, I think her name is Jessica Zweig. She was in high school and she poured her heart and soul into uh, theater, and she would never land a role. So she went crying into her teacher's office, and he's saying, Jessica, if you don't believe in yourself, how is anyone else going to believe in yourself? And I'm like, bang, it was like someone hit me over the head. I'm like, that's where I'm stuck, not believing I'm enough. I might be saying it, affirming it, but knowing that I'm worthy and knowing and believing it is a totally different story. And then you feel it. And it's not like I don't, one day I'm good, one day I'm bad. That's the I'm like, I'm awesome today. And then the next day I'm like, oh, so.
Yeah, and it's beautiful, because as I hear you sharing this, there's this, and I know I don't necessarily want to assume this was this way for you, but I know many people that I've spoken with, and myself included, there, and I realize we're all different. We all have this, in human incarnation, and we have this experience, the experiences that we have specific for us. And I found that, a lot of times, beginning a journey like this, there is that tendency to, if we sense that bliss and that peace amidst that presence, that we're picking up on, that it can be very tempting. And I know I certainly went through this, that it was very tempting to want to live there in that transcendent state. and forgetting about and not really honoring the human work. And I really do, I'm so appreciative that you've spoken so much about doing that human work. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's so true. Like I'm I don't know if you're into astrology. Yes, I'm into lots of things. I'm a Pisces moon and a Virgo sun. So
Hmm.
sometimes that Pisces moon wants to stay. I have, like, as you can see here, it's just my own little place for my sound bath, and I just shut the
Yeah.
door and I could stay in here for hours. But then the rest of my like, what happened to her? Where'd she go? So it's a
Yeah.
lot more peaceful in when in the than the real world. But I totally get that.
Yeah, and then is there any sense or in terms of your experience, let's say when you're at work and you're out in the world, dealing with that human stuff and dealing with things out in the world that that can't all be controlled, so to speak. Have you found some aspect of that, and I'm using the word sacred not from that I'm limiting it to any particular meaning, but other than the just the celebration ultimately of what is, so to speak. Yeah, and I'm wondering if there's been anything in terms of just you seeing any more of that just in moment to moment life, out in the middle of it in the world while it's all happening, seemingly at the same time.
Yes, I noticed that I've become more of an observer, rather than being reactive to the world when I'm out in everyday life. Like, rather than getting, if someone gets angry or yells or whatever, I observe it and I realize, like, there's one thing that I always say to myself, that what was it? It's basically, when people react to you, don't take things, oh, that's it. Don't take things personally. That
Yeah,
has been a game changer for me. So, like, when I'm in the world, in everyday life, going to the grocery store, or if someone, like, it doesn't say hello to you, it's like, you know what? Maybe they're having a bad day today. So I don't think things as personally anymore. And I realize that all of us are human. All of us had bad days. So
yeah, and making and quote unquote making room for that. If I'm wondering if that's been the sense. I had a Zen teacher here recently that I work with from time to time and study with, that was talking about adopting this posture of welcoming. And so and I love when you were speaking about that in the middle of things, while we are having these sometimes very strong emotional reactions, to be able to get in touch with our ability to be able to welcome it, so to speak. And I can say I honestly I don't know that I've ever had a one day where I have really welcomed everything, so to speak, and been open to it all.
yeah, you know what? You just made me think of something. I took one of the courses with a Corey Mascara. I think he was a monk.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And he spoke of, like, when you get these thoughts that coming through to you, instead of grasping them and holding on to those thoughts, say, "Oh, that's interesting. What next?" And I was like, "Wow, that's so." And it's so funny because it's not like I haven't heard some of these things over and over again. It's just I noticed, once you clear out the stuff inside of you, you're much more receptive. Like, I think everybody knows what a certain thing means, or worthy, or not everyone knows what all of this means, because they might have things inside of them that they haven't released. So I might have been told over and over again, believe you're worthy or this, but now I'm like, oh yeah, I am.
yeah, yeah. I love that. And then I had someone that's in their early 90s just a few days ago that I was having a conversation with, and they were talking about how even at their age they are still continuing to learn new things, continuing to grow and to adapt and to evolve, and really learning from life and just paying attention to how they function moment to moment. And so that when you were speaking of that, that brought that to mind,
Oh,
of
how
just that.
amazing. Yes,
Yeah,
that's an amazing outlook to be in, presence to be around, right?
yeah.
I find that too. I'm like, oh my goodness, how am I going to learn everything I want to learn? No.
And somehow it just unfolds as it does, right? It
It
yeah.
does. Without being forced, that without being forceful and pushful, and opportunities come. And they're like, wow, just like when you reached out to me, I'm like, how amazing.
And it's so, and what I love about this is I have no way to know. I just, ultimately, whether it's, whether it's going to be received and resonate with people. And I know clearly it is not always. And I can't even really say for sure what, there really is no process, so to speak. It's just really something comes up intuitively, and there's not a reason, so to speak. I had someone ask the other day, what do you want from me? And I think they may have been a little taken aback when I had said, because they were asking that in terms of like, what do I want them to talk about? What am
Right.
I expecting? And when I said, actually, I hope this is okay to say this, but I don't want or expect anything from you other than to be whoever you are in the moment, however that looks, and however that energy flows. And yeah, I don't know necessarily how that was received, but it was really an aha moment for me that just being open to things unfolding as they do, and being with people, and like you were speaking about, feeling confident to reach out to people and be ultimately, or genuinely who you are.
And I love that you just said that, because literally right before I got on this Zoom call, I looked in the mirror and I'm like, Heather, are you ready for this? And I'm like, Heather, he just wants you, Heather, just be Heather. That's it.
Yes, yes. I tell you, you made my day on that one. And what I love about that is I have had those moments myself. I will freely admit to you that, sometimes before, I get on Zoom with somebody, and I still do some of these in my local area. So, before I go out and look people in the eye and have these conversations, I love how you ask that question, are you ready? And what's I found is that there's been more room and openness to not being ready, and to just flowing with things how they go. In other words, yeah, it's been something for me that has been it's I certainly didn't expect this. And I can't say that there was anything that I did in particular, for it to be this way. I think this is just a natural flow, the way things have unfolded as they have. But that whole thing about, and I do respect that. I clearly, respect preparation and being ready for certain things. But I love how, just to be authentically who we are, there really doesn't seem to, and there again, I don't want to speak on anybody else's behalf, but it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of preparation that is necessary. Yeah, not an opinion, but just that's just been my experience.
Oh, I agree with that. It's just the Virgo in me always wants to be prepared.
Oh, and
And
I totally respect it. Yeah.
I'm learning that, just being authentic and seeing how things, it's always more fun when it's just like this impromptu, or it's exciting to see what comes up or what comes through or what's meant to come through for someone, even one person, to hear something that helps them.
Oh, absolutely. And I was speaking to someone the other day, and I'd mentioned that this in a way, this really does feel like a form of medicine. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with me. It's just, the being in this space, and recognizing that there's an opportunity for me to be genuinely who I am, as well as the person that I'm speaking with, and that it this doesn't come from me necessarily, but it's this option is available and open. So that, to me, that really has been incredibly healing, just to recognize the healing and how nourishing it can be to show up in a space and just be who we are.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel your presence as well, and it's comforting, and it makes me open to share.
Well, thank you so much, and I feel the same way about you. And this has certainly been it's been a pleasure, and it's certainly been something that is very inspiring and very nourishing as well, to hear about your journey, and your journey of becoming who you've in some way and who you've always been and who you are becoming. If that makes sense. And there again, I tried not to think or preview that one or edit it, just to let it flow. Uh, I think that's all the questions I have that are coming up or that are bubbling up right at the moment. So what I wanted to do was just to there's no expectation on this. I just wanted to give you a little bit of space and time. If there's anything you feel moved to share beyond what you've spoken of, I just wanted to give you a little bit of room to do that, if so.
I just want to share with everyone that, as we discussed, Jeff and I, just to be who you are. I felt like my whole life I was afraid to show or even to say who I was or what I liked, or I was so into pleasing everybody else and not thinking of myself or showing love towards myself. I always thought that was selfish. And it's not selfish because we have to fill our cup up first, clean up our cup, clean up inside of us, and then fill it up with the good stuff. And it's going to spread to everybody else. And people, since I work with energy, you don't need to say a word. You can walk in the room, your energy is already introducing yourself. We're living
Yeah. Yeah.
vibrating fields of energy, and we can feel that. We can feel love, we can feel anger, we can as humans, we don't even realize how much energy is going on around us. So I really focus on people feel you before you even say a word. So just know that you're worthy, know that you are enough. And I'm sending every single person on this call love, light, and tons of Reiki energy.
Wow. Thank you, Heather, so very much. I really appreciate it. And I want to honor you and tell you that this has been an opportunity for me to learn from you about this. And I really mean that from the heart. I mean, in terms of being authentically who you are and the human work that you have done ultimately to let more of that light shine, so to speak, in the world is I really honor that. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's been on a human level. It's been great meeting you. And I also want to thank you so much for sharing your presence and your consciousness and for speaking about your journey. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my honor. Thank you so much.